Today we're going to show you a really common procedure, but it can be kind of intimidating and it can be kind of risky. You just want to make sure you have the proper tools, which I'll show you here in a minute. What we're going to be doing is replacing the strut. We've already got the strut assembly out of the car. This one's actually out of a BMW, but it's going to be pretty much the same procedure for just about any car across the board. So we've got our old strut here. We're also going to be replacing the coil spring. And here's our new strut. You can see what we have to do is disassemble this old one so that we can get the hardware off the top of this. Many times what you'll be doing is reusing the spring and everything, but either way it's going to have to come apart. So we'll show you how to do that and then how to transfer it onto the new strut and get it set up and ready to bolt back into the car. So let me show you first of all the tool that you need, the specialty tool. Now this tool is called a coil spring strut coil spring compressor. The reason you need this is because these coil springs hold a dangerous amount of tension in them, and we have to compress the coil spring to get the tension off of the top of the strut plate. So this tool you can usually borrow from just about any of your local parts houses, or you can pick them up for fairly cheap. They're not too badly priced. So what it does is it just holds the coil spring tight. The way this works, literally it just sits over the spring like this. Actually, we're going to do it the other way around for more clearance. So it's going to go like this. And then when we tighten this bolt down all the way, it will compress the coil spring and hold it while we're working on the strut. So I'll just get it snug. And then we'll use a tool to compress it the rest of the way. And you do this on each side, just like so, directly apart from each other. These little pins are just a safety mechanism. They keep it locked onto the spring. I'm going to move this one as close as I can to that bottom coil and scoot this one around a little bit too. There we go. Just like so. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and tighten these down. Let me get the right tool for it. All right, so what you want to do is just tighten down each side a little bit at a time, and you go back and forth and just keep going. And you'll know you've gone far enough once the coil separates from the top of the strut here, which I'll show you when it happens and explain it. Okay, I've got it compressed enough now. It's kind of hard to see, but if you can see in there, there's now a gap on the top of this coil between the top of the spring and the strut plate. Once that happens, you know that there's no more tension, well, at least not a dangerous amount of tension in here. There's still probably a little bit that'll pop out once we undo it. So at this point, we're safe to go ahead and take off the top nut that holds this strut assembly on. On this particular car, there's a little cover here. Inside here, well, it's got some grease in there. I'll wash my hands before I touch it. Inside there is a nut. We'll go ahead and just zip that off using a impact wrench. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and take this strut plate off. There's a 21 millimeter nut down in there. Now you do want to be careful on this step. You do not want the top of this thing anywhere near your face, just in case. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lean back from it and have it pointing straight up as I take this nut off, just in case. Okay. So now the nut's off, our strut plate, or our bearing plate comes off. There's a nut underneath that. And now just thread that on there a little bit just as a safety thing. It's still kind of tight. Something's the nut will keep it from flying off if this thing goes wrong. So all right, the spring is just stuck to the there she goes. It's just all kind of stuck together. There's no tension in there. A little bit. All right, there. So that's the worst part. Now the bottom will come up too. Just pull this whole assembly off. There we go. Now be careful with this. This has a lot of tension in it. So what I'm going to do, if you're reusing the spring, you would keep this like it is and transfer it over to your new strut, like so. But we're replacing the springs as well, so I have to undo the tension on this just to get our compressors back off of here. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen these guys up. Again, you don't want the front of the spring pointed anywhere at you or your camera guy. So I'll just go ahead and undo these guys real quick and we'll be right back with you. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to get our new strut ready to install. We're going to transfer over our coil spring isolator. I went ahead and just cleaned it up. Just set that down. It'll only go one way. You'll see this bump here. That lines up with the bump in there, so that's the only way it'll go. We'll take off our top nut. We've got our new springs, which are actually a lowering spring. So we might even get lucky and not have to use the spring compressor. We'll find out. But what you do is you line up the spring, and that end of it sits right in that bump right there. Just like so. And now our top plate goes on. Just like so. And our washer, which was under there, followed by our strut plate. Let's see. All right, looks like we are going to have to use the compressor a little bit. Not much, but just enough to get that seat to sit down. Okay, now the spring seat is fully on there. So we'll go ahead and put our strut bearing plate back on there and our new nut. And of course our new nut is bigger. So grab a bigger socket. All right, now we'll just snug this down with my impact wrench. All right. Now we can put our cap back on the top of the strut. Uh-oh. What do I do with it? Oh, here it is. And I can take our coil spring compressor back off now. All right, and we have one new strut assembly ready to install. So I'll go ahead and set that over by the car. All right, so that's all you have to do to replace a strut when you're not doing a complete assembly, is just follow those steps. Again, be really careful. Make sure you have the proper tools, particularly the coil spring compressor is vital. But that's really all there is to it. So thank you for watching. Remember, next time you're looking for any parts, go to apdty.com. Check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/apdty, and keep watching us for new videos. Thank you.